Hello and welcome to this video. I'll be giving you a quick introduction to the portfolio project we are going to be creating. Although I have created the project based on a portfolio of courses that I create, but you can replicate it to any format you want. For example, yours could be a portfolio of jobs, could be a portfolio of projects or anything. So it is replicatable. So you have a title at the end here, and then I have two links. This link basically is an email link, and this is a link to the courses I have on Udemy, but yours can go anywhere. It could represent a Twitter link, Facebook link, or anything. So you can always modify it and customize it to your taste. And then you can just place a logo or a picture of yourself if you want. And then these are the various portfolios. These are the courses. So my portfolio are a portfolio of courses. Yours could be a portfolio of jobs, portfolio of projects, or anything. Okay. And then you should be able to click on the image and it will open up into another page to give you more details about the image and whatever it does. And then click back again. And that takes you back to the main page where the portfolio are displayed. So that's basically what we will be creating for this portfolio project. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello there. Welcome to this video. Let's check to make sure we have Python and pip installed on our computer. If you are using a Windows-based computer, you need to open up your command prompt. If you are on a Mac, you need to open up your terminal. So on Windows, just type in Python space 2 dashes dash and type in the word version and press enter, and that will tell you the current version of Python you have installed on your computer. If you're on a Mac, you will need to type in Python 3 space dash version. That's because on a Mac, you have two versions. You have version 2.7 pre-installed, and then you install Python 3. So it's important to type in Python 3 space dash version to know the version of Python 3 that you have installed. Next thing to do is to check for the version of pip. Pip is a package manager that you use to install and manage Python packages. So we do the same thing. You type in pip space dash and the word version and press enter, and that will give you the current version of pip. If you're on a Mac, you will need to type in pip 3 space dash version. So you can see here, mine is saying I've got version 18.1. So the next thing to do is to update pip, because pip is more frequently updated than Python. To update pip, you need to type in the following command. If you are on a Windows, you type in Python -m, then pip install -- upgrade pip. If you are on a Mac, you need to type in Python 3 space -m space pip install -- upgrade pip. To upgrade pip, I need to type in the command Python. If you're on a Mac, type in Python 3 space -m space pip and then the word install. You do a space -- upgrade. If your version of pip is already up to date, it will tell you it's already up to date. So press enter, and that will begin the download and installation. What it normally does, it will uninstall the previous version and then install a newer version. So you can see on mine here, it's on the installed version 18.1 and then successfully installed pip version 19.03. So that's it for this video. In this video, we checked to see if we had Python and pip installed on our computer, and we also updated the version of pip. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello there, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to briefly illustrate the difference between a Django project and a Django app. I'm going to illustrate using the website called Amazon. A Django project in terms of Amazon will be the entire Amazon website. So let's say this green rectangle here is the entire Amazon website. That is regarded as a project in Django terms. Now, the individual components inside the Amazon website will be regarded as an app in Django terms. So things like Amazon Video will be an individual app. Amazon Kindle will also be an app. Amazon Music will be an app. Amazon Pantry will be an app. Amazon Cars will be an app. Amazon Sports will be an app, just to give you a few examples. So you can have multiple apps inside a Django project, as you've seen in this illustration. And also an app can be used in multiple projects. So if you have one app you've used in a particular project, nothing stops you using that same app in multiple projects. So the individual components of the app are independent. So an app is independent, that allows you to reuse it in other projects. So I just wanted to make the key distinction between a Django project and the Django app. The Django project is the entire project, while the app is the individual component within the project. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be walking you through how to install a virtual environment. A virtual environment is an isolated Python development environment that enables you to isolate your Python projects. That way you can install the packages that you want for that specific isolated environment. It's useful because it enables you to separate your projects into different Python isolated environment. So we're going to start off by creating a directory for our project. Python has a package that enables you to install the virtual environment on your computer. If you are on a Windows, you type in the command pip space install, and the name of the package is virtual env, and that will install it on your computer. If you're on a Mac, you can type in sudo space pip space install virtual env. This also works for Linux-based computer. On a Mac, when you're using sudo, you need to provide a password for that sudo account to enable you install the package. When you're trying to install the virtual environment, if you have already got it on your computer, you will get a warning telling you that the computer already has it, and it will then abort the installation. I'm going to illustrate on a Windows-based computer. If you are on a Mac, you need to open up your terminal. On the Windows-based computer, first thing I want to do is create a directory on my desktop. So I'm going to change directory to my desktop. So I type in cd space desktop, and that will change directory to my desktop. So now I'm in my desktop. To create a new directory, a directory is also known as a folder. So to create the directory, I just type in mkdir space, and I'll give the directory a name. I'm going to call it my underscore portfolio, and I'll press enter, and that should create the directory on my desktop. So you can see here, this is a directory it has created. It is called my underscore portfolio, but feel free to call yours whatever name you like. The next thing I want to do is change directory to the new directory I've just created. So I'll say cd to change directory space my underscore portfolio. I press enter. That changes to that directory. So I'm just going to clear my screen by typing CLS. If you're on a Mac, you can clear your screen by typing in clear. So now I'm in the directory of my new project. This is my empty project directory. So that's what I'm referring to here. So now I want to install the virtual environment. I have already used virtual environment on other projects I've worked on. So I already have it on my computer. So if I try to install it, it will tell me I already have it. So let's check that out. So I type in pip space install space virtual env, and I'll press enter, and it will try and install. If it finds out that I've already got it, it will abort it. You can see it says requirement already satisfied, and it tells me the location where it is. It also tells me the version that I have got installed. This is a screen capture of a previously successful installation of virtual environment. So if you haven't already got it installed, this is what it will look like when you're trying to install it. But I have already got it installed, so it doesn't install it again. But if you haven't, this is the screen you should see. So that's it for this video. In this video, I showed you how to install a virtual environment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. We are going to create an isolated Python development environment now that we have installed the virtual environment on our system. To begin, make sure you change directory to your project directory, and then you type in the command that will create an isolated development environment. So this is a command. You type in virtual env, that is the virtual environment package. You do a space and then type in the name of your virtual environment. In this example, my env will be the virtual environment. I have already changed directory to my project directory, which is my underscore portfolio, which is this folder here. Now I can create a new virtual environment. So to do that, I just type in the word virtual env, which is the package that creates the virtual environments for you. You do a space. I'm going to call my virtual environment my env, and I'll press enter, and that should create the virtual environment in the directory I have specified. So it is installing the setup tools that it requires for this particular environment. You can see it's done it now, and then it has this text that says done. To see the virtual environment that was created, just click in the directory where you created it, and my directory is this one here. So you can see that is my virtual environment. I called it my env. So if I click on it, you'll see what's inside. So it has all these folders, and then it's got this text file. So the next thing we're going to do is activate the virtual environment, and we're going to activate it inside this folder called scripts, and it's got this activate command. So we're going to activate the virtual environment via this scripts directory. Before you activate your virtual environment, it's a good idea to change directory to the actual environment, and the activation depends on the operating system. If you're on a Mac, you activate it this way. So you type in the name of your virtual environment /source space bin /activate. That will activate it, and this is for Mac or Linux based computers. If you're on a Windows based computer, you can activate it like this: the name of the virtual environment /script /activate. I'll be showing you how to activate on a Windows-based computer. So the first thing I need to do is change directory to my virtual environment. This is my virtual environment. It's called my env. So I'm going to change directory to that. So I'll type in cd space my env and I'll press enter, and that takes me into my virtual environment. I'm just going to type in CLS to clear the screen. Now to activate my virtual environment, I need to type in the word scripts/activate and press enter. And if you can see this here, the parentheses and the name of your virtual environment, that means your virtual environment is activated. So make sure you see the name of your virtual environment enclosed in parentheses. Very important. That is the indicator that your virtual environment is now active. So that's it for this video. In this video, we created an isolated virtual environment and also activated it. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to install Django inside your virtual environment. To begin, make sure you change directory to your virtual environment. Once you've changed directory, you need to type in the command pip space install space Django. If you're on a Mac, you need to type in pip3 space install space Django. Also make sure your virtual environment is activated. So you can see my virtual environment is activated. So to install Django, I'll type in pip space install space Django. If you are on a Mac, you need to type in pip3 space install space Django. So once you've done that, press enter, and that will install Django inside your virtual environment. So apart from installing Django, it installs other packages that Django will require in order for it to work properly. Once Django has been installed successfully, you should see the text that says successfully installed Django, and it also tells you the other packages that it installed with Django. So it installed SQL parse and it also installed pytz. So these are all that were installed with Django. So to check that you definitely have Django installed, there's a command you can type. So to begin, I just want to clear my screen. I'll type in CLS. That clears my screen. And the command you need to type to check that you have Django installed is python space -m space Django space -- version. Press enter, and that would tell you, you can see it tells me here I've got version 2.2 installed. So that's it for this video. In this video, we successfully installed Django inside our virtual environment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to create a new Django project. Before we begin, make sure that you are in the directory of your virtual environment and that your virtual environment is activated. Once you've got that activated, you type in the command django-admin space start project space the name you want to call your project. You can also add a period at the end. If you create the new Django project without a period at the end after the name of the project, what happens, it creates a directory for the project. Let's say, for example, the Django project is called portfolio. So it will create a main directory called portfolio. It then creates the main Django project inside that portfolio. So the container directory, which is the top portfolio, becomes just a holding directory for the other portfolio, which is the main project. So you can avoid that by using the period, and then it doesn't create the container. If you forget to use the period, you can always rename the outer project folder, which is the container folder. One thing also you need to do when you are creating a new Django project, make sure that you don't name your project after any names that are used in Python or Django, because this will create a conflict. So I have got my virtual environment activated. To create a new Django project, I type in the command Django-admin space start project, which is one word, space the name I want to call my project. I'm going to call my project portfolio. I'll do a space because I don't want the container folder created. I'm going to add a dot. Then I press enter and that will create the project. So if I look inside my virtual environment, I should see a new Django project called portfolio. So I'm just going to click on that, and this is my virtual environment. If I open it, you can see here I've got the folder called portfolio. If I click on it, you would not see any container directory. That's because I used the period. If you forgot to add the period at the end of your project name, it will create a container or a holding folder that will hold this portfolio project or whatever name you have called your Django project. So that's it for this video. In this video, I walked you through how to create a new Django project. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to explore the components of a new Django project. It is better to open up the Django project inside your text editor. So I've got my Django project inside my virtual environment. This is my virtual environment, and this portfolio here is my Django project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up my virtual environment directory inside my text editor. And the text editor I'm going to use is called Atom. So I have opened up my virtual environment inside my text editor called Atom. And this is my virtual environment. If you're using Atom, it's fairly easy. Just click on File and then click on Open Folder and just browse to where the folder you want to open is. So I've already opened up my folder. This is my virtual environment. I'm just going to expand that to take a look at my project. So this is the Django project. When you create a new Django project, it creates the main project directory. It also adds this file here, which is called manage.py. This manage.py is the file that you're going to use to run any commands relating to your project. So let's open up the actual project. In my case, my project is called portfolio. I'm going to click to expand, and these are all the files inside my project. I'll start with this one that says _init__.py. What that does, it basically tells Python that this directory should be treated or considered a Python package. The next file here is called the settings.py. So if I click on it, you can see here it contains all the settings for the project. So any settings you want to adjust, any configuration you want to set for the entire project is done inside this file called settings.py. Next, we've got this file called urls.py. This file basically is where you declare your URL. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. And basically what it does, it contains a table of contents of all your URLs for your project. An example of a URL is, say, www.google.com. That is a URL. So that's what this url.py does. And then we have this file here called WSGI. What this does, basically, it is an entry point for a server. Django comes with a pre-built server that enables you to test your application. So it's a development server. So you're not meant to use it in a production environment, just in a development environment. That's what this WSGI.py does. So that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. Now that we have created our Django project, we can test it by running our Django development server. So to start the Django development server, you need to type in this command: Python space manage.py space run server. And what that does, it will start the server on a default port. So when the server starts, it runs on port 8000. So the URL will be 127.0.0.1:8000. This is also represented as local host. So the 127.0.0.1 is also known as local host. You can change the default port if you don't want it to run on 8000, or if you have other applications that are running on that port, you can run it on a different port by specifying it when you run the manage.py space run server command. So you do it like this: type in the Python space manage.py space run server space, and then you type in the port. Say for example, I wanted port 8001, and then specify it. By doing it that way, it will override the default port of 8000. Once your server is up and running, you can quit your server anytime by typing in the command Ctrl+C to exit the server or to stop the server. So let's start the server. Make sure that your virtual environment is activated, and then type in the command Python. You can do it in lowercase, Python space manage.py space run server, and press enter, and that should start the development server. So give it a few minutes and you can see it started. See here, it tells you it's starting the development server at this address, and the port is 8000. So what you need to do, you need to copy this address here, including the 8000, into your web browser to display the Django server in progress. You may notice here we've got this that says 17 unapplied migrations. Don't worry about that for now. I will explain what that is later as the course progresses. For now, let's just copy this address so we can see the server running. So you can see here, I've got my Django server running on this address 127.0.0.1, and the port is 8000. So if you can see this, if you can see the rocket, that means your project and your Django installation is working okay. If you don't see the rocket, if there's any issues, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to help. To quit the server at any time, just do Ctrl+C, and that will quit the server and return back to your command prompt. You can see here I've quit the server and it's returned me back to my command prompt. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be walking you through how to create a new Django app. So before you begin, make sure that you are in the directory that contains the manage.py file, because you need that to run the command. So the command you need to create a new Django project is Python space manage.py space start app space and then the name of the app. The names of the app are usually by convention, they are plural. For example, courses or jobs or projects. Also, when you're giving names to your Django project, avoid using names that are the same as keywords in Python or Django, because that can create a conflict. Make sure your virtual environment is activated. So to begin, you type in the command python space manage.py space. You type in the command start app, that has to be one word, space, followed by the name you want to call your app, which should be plural. So you can name your app anything. My app, I'm going to call it courses because it's going to relate to the courses I offer. If your app is going to be about the jobs that you've done, you want to present a portfolio to future employees, then you type in jobs as your app. If you want to list projects you've done in the past, you can type in projects as your portfolio. So I'm just going to press enter, and that will create a new Django app called courses. Now, if I open up my text editor and look inside my virtual environment folder, I should see a new folder called courses. You can see here, this is my app called courses. If I click to expand, you can see the components that are inside my new app. So let me quickly run through the components of the app directory. I'll start from the bottom here. This file here is called views.py. This is the file that you would write your views in. A view basically is a kind of a web page in your Django application that does something specific. For example, a blog, an about page, a contact page, things like that can be regarded as a view, and you have to write them inside this views.py file. The next file here is the test.py. This basically is where you write any test that you want to run for your app. The next file here is this file here called models.py. This basically contains essential fields and behavior for the data you want to store in your database. So this is where you will write the classes that will create the tables for your database. The next file is this file here called apps.py. This file basically contains the application configuration and registration. The next file here is this admin.py. By default, Django also provides you with an administrative site that you can use to administer your application. So any configuration you want to add to your administration site, you add it inside this file called admin.py. The next file is this file here called __init__.py. Now this is an empty file. All it does, it tells Django and Python to recognize this folder as a Python package, and that allows you to use its object within other parts of the project. And the final file I want to mention is this here. This is actually a directory inside the app directory. Now this directory here is called migrations. It basically is used to store all the migrations for your app. So any modifications you make in your models.py, it's registered inside this migrations folder. So the actual migration files allows you to automatically update any changes to your database as you modify the models. So that is it for this video. In this video, we created a new Django app, Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello there. In this video, I'll be showing you how to register your new Django app with your Django project. The Django project at the moment does not know about your Django app. So in order for it to be aware of your Django app and interact with it, we have to register the Django app with the Django project. To register your Django app with your Django project, we need to do that inside a file called settings.py, and that file is located inside your Django project. So my Django project is called portfolio. So if I expand that, there is a file called settings.py. This is where we need to register our Django app. So if I scroll down, you should see a section for installed apps. By default, Django also installs some apps for you, and a lot of these apps does different things, but Django just does it for you to make your life much easier. Any of them that you don't need to use, you can always comment out, but some of them can be quite useful. Actually, let me just run through some of these apps that Django has pre-installed for you so that you can just have an idea of what they do. Now, this one here on line 34, called django.contrib.admin. Basically, this is an admin site that Django enables you to use to manage your entire project. And then here on line 35, we've got the django.contrib.auth. This is an authentication system. Django makes it really easy for you to implement authentication, logins, logout, create usernames and stuff. It makes it easy for you to do that. It would take you a lot of time if you had to do that from scratch. So Django does that for you. And here on line 36, we've got django.contrib.content type. Basically, it's a framework for content types. Line 37, we've got django.contrib.sessions. This basically is a session framework. Line 38, we've got django.contrib.messages. This is a messaging framework. And then finally, we've got django.contrib.static files. It's a framework for managing static files. So Django makes work quite easy for you by pre-installing all this. So now let's go ahead and register our Django app. So here you can see here, this is a list. All the apps here are enclosed in a list, because that's the opening square bracket and that's the closing square bracket. So I'm just going to go to the top here and just tab and make sure that they are on the same indentation line. So in quotes, I'll type in the name of my app, which is called courses. So courses, whatever your app name is, you need to indicate that. So you do a .app.courses. This courses here is the name of the class that was created. So you do courses and then config, and make sure you add the comma at the end. Very important. So I'll show you where this app comes from. So if you look inside your Django app, my Django app is called courses, and inside here there's a file called apps.py. You can see here there is a class called courses config, and this on line 1 here we're importing from django.apps. We're importing this module here. So that's what I am referring to here on line 34, where I'm registering my Django app. Make sure that when you're registering your app, make sure the casing is correct. You can see here the name of my app. This class here is uppercase C, and this C in config is uppercase. So always look inside your apps.py and just confirm the configuration. You can see here the courses here, the C is uppercase and the C in config is uppercase. So if I go back into my settings, you can see I have the right casing. So it's important that you specify the names correctly. So that is it for this video. In this video, I walked you through how to register your Django app with your Django project. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello there. By default, Django comes pre-installed with a default database called SQLite. If you want to use the default database that Django has preset for you, there is nothing else for you to do in terms of configuration. Everything has already been set up for you. However, Django does also support other database systems such as PostgreSQL, which is very scalable. It also supports Oracle and also MySQL. These databases are larger than SQLite and they are more robust and they are scalable. If you decide you want to use any of these databases, say for example PostgreSQL, you have to install the backend on your computer first. So you must have Postgres installed. Apart from installing the backend, you also have to install the database bindings. The bindings are what enables you to connect your Django app to the database. For example, if you're going to be using things like PostgreSQL, the binding you need to use is called SciPog. If you're using MySQL, you can use the MySQL client as a binding. So these are just options if you decide you don't want to use the default SQLite database. I am going to be using the PostgreSQL database for my project. So I have the PSQL shell. This shell comes pre-bundled with the installation of PostgreSQL. So to get this shell to come up, just type into your search bar PSQL, or if you look inside your PostgreSQL folder, if you're on a Windows computer, you should see a file that says SQL shell PSQL. If you're on a Mac, you could do that in your application folder and look for this file called SQL shell. If not, just search for it and that should bring up the PSQL. So once you have the shell open, the first prompt it will give you is the server. So it's going to give you a few prompts and you just need to respond to them. So it's saying here that the server is local to my computer, which is true. So I just press enter. It's saying the default database for Postgres, the default database is called Postgres, which is true. That's the default database you get when you install Postgres. So I press enter. Postgres by default will run on port 5432. So I'm not going to change that. I'm going to press enter to accept. The default username is Postgres. This username is like a super user and enables you to do administrative stuff like create databases and so on. So I'm going to stick to that and press enter. Next is going to ask me for the password. The password is asking for is the password that I would have set during the installation of the Postgres database. So I'm going to put that in. If you've entered your password incorrectly, you should get this flashing cursor that says Postgres, which means you are connected to the Postgres database, okay, which is the default database. Next thing I want to do is list. You can list all the database that are currently present. To do that, you do a slash and you do a L, press enter, and it will list all the databases. I have done several projects on this database system, so you can see these are all the databases I have currently on this Postgres installation. Next thing I want to do is create a database that I'm going to use in my Django project. So to create a database, you type in create space database space, and then you give the database a name. I'm going to call mine portfolio DB and add a semicolon at the end. Very important that you add the semicolon so that it knows that that is the end of the statement. When you've done that, press enter And if the database has been created successfully, you should see it return the command that says create database. And then we can run that /l command again just to check. You can see once you get this create database, it means the database has been created. So let's see if it's in the database list by doing a / and an L and press enter. So we're looking for something that says portfolio DB. There you go. So I've got portfolio DB, which means the database has been created successfully. To exit the PSQL shell, you just do a / and the Q and press enter, and then press any key to continue, and that will exit the shell. Now that we have created a new database inside the Postgres database, we will need to supply the following information to Django. So we need to supply the name of the database, the username that will be used to connect to the database, the password for the database, the host, if it's running local or not, and then the port number the database is running on. So all this information, we need to supply it to Django in the settings.py of the Django project. We will do that in the part 2 of this database setup series. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. I'll be showing you how to set up your time zone settings in your Django project. If you're not sure what your time zone should be, you can go to the link displayed on the screen. To set your time zone, you need to go to your settings.py file, which is inside your Django project. So once you're inside the settings.py file, if you scroll down on line number 115, there is a time_zone setting. The default setting is UTC. I am in London in Europe, so I'm going to change that to reflect where I am. So to do that, I just come here, type in Europe and do a / to say where I am in Europe. I'm in London, and that's it. That's how to set up your time zone. Once you've done that, make sure you save the settings.py file so that your changes will be saved. While I'm in the settings.py file, there is a couple of settings I want to draw your attention to. We're not going to change them. I just want to draw your attention to those settings. The first setting is on line 23. As you can see, I have blurred those settings out. That is a secret key. Django uses this secret key as part of its website security. So make sure, even though you are in development mode, make sure you protect that key. If for some reason the key has been compromised, or you think people may have known what the key is, then you need to change the key. So very important you protect it. And if you haven't exposed it already to anyone, then just make sure you keep it on lockdown. The second option I want to show you here, the second thing is on line number 26, the debug. In development, debug is set to true, which means that any errors that you get in your application, the logs are displayed as it is. So any error logs and stuff like that, you will see them. Now, this is okay if you're in development, but if you are in production, or if you're going to deploy this code live for people to use, then you need to change that value to false. This is because if you don't change it to false, hackers can use the information to attack your website or project. So having debug set to true, you can see any errors that occur as you're developing, it will get displayed. But please make sure that is changed to false in a production environment. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to be running the migrations for the default applications that Django pre-installed for us. Before we run the migrations, I just want to quickly describe what models are in Django. So in Django, a model basically represents a single source of information about your data. So it contains things like fields and behaviors of the data you are hoping to store. Also, each model is basically a Python class that's subclasses to the django.db.models.model, and each attribute of the model represents a database field. Models are usually defined in the models.py file that Django provides for you when you create a Django app. Django uses an object relational mapper, which is also known as ORM, to map the model definitions inside your models.py file. So it maps the definitions of that model to the data structure that is used by the underlying database. So whatever database you're using, the data structure for that database is mapped using the object relational mapper. So any models you define is defined inside your models.py file, which is located in your Django project. So if I expand my Django project, you can see I've got a models.py file. So this is where you define your models, which are basically Python classes that you can use to set up database structure. So once whatever class models you define in here, Django uses the object relational mapper, which is also known as ORM for short. It uses that to map whatever model definitions you have here to the data structure for the underlying database that you are using to store your data. Any changes that you make to your model definition, so after you've defined your model, any changes you make is tracked by this folder here. This folder is called migrations. The folder is empty at the moment, but any changes you make to the model gets tracked inside this folder called migrations. Any changes that you make to your model definitions after you've defined them in the models.py gets tracked, and the changes are tracked and stored inside this folder called migrations. So at the moment there's nothing in there, but that's where the changes will be stored. So Django tracks the changes and can create database migration scripts inside the migrations folder to automatically migrate the underlying data structure in the database to match the model. So before we run the migration on the installed apps, let me just show you what the installed apps are. If we go into our Django project, my project is called Portfolio, and inside the settings.py file, there is a section for installed apps. So all these apps Django has pre-installed for you, basically just as a convenience in case you need them. And now some of these applications will need to make use of at least one database table. For example, this here on line 36 called auth. This basically is authentication. So you may any data you may need a database table to store the usernames and any changes you may make. So some of them will require at least one database table, if not more. There are two important commands that can be used with migration. The first command is the migrate command. So when you run the migrate command, this will apply the migrations to your database. So this is a command that will actually create the database table. So this command, what it does is now going to look at the installed_apps settings in your settings.py file and create any necessary database tables according to the database settings in the settings.py file. Another useful command is the make migrations command. This make migration command creates the migration but does not apply the migration. In previous videos, when I ran the development server, I highlighted that you should see this message that says you have 17 unapplied migrations. Now, this unapplied migrations is talking about is the migrations for the installed apps that Django has installed for us, which are these apps. So that's what it's saying. The migration script has been created, but we need to run the migrate command that will create the database tables. Once we run that command, this message should no longer show because we would have applied the migrations. There's something I need to point out to you. I noticed that on line 34 of the installed app, where I added my Django app, I forgot to add the S. So make sure you amend that. Make sure the apps is an S. So, okay, if not, your Django server will not start. Make sure you've got an S in the apps. Another thing I want to show you before I run the migrate command is to show you that the database we created has no tables at the moment. So when we run the migrate command, it's going to populate the database with some tables. So to connect to the database, you just type in /C and then you do a space and then you type in the name of the database you're connecting to. So I'm connecting to a database called Portfolio DB, which is the database I created. So we press enter, and if everything is right, you can see here is now flashing saying I've connected to Portfolio DB. If I do a /DT, that should show me any tables in the database. If I press enter, you can see here there's no table listed. It says did not find any relations. Once I've applied the migrations, it should populate the database with some tables. All right, I'm just going to stop my development server so that we can create these tables using the migrate command. All right, so to migrate the existing installed apps, you just type in Python space manage.py space and the word migrate and press enter, and that will apply the migrations. You can see here is applying all the migrations, so that means the tables would have been created. So let me clear that and start the server again. If I start the server again, you should not see the message about migration. So manage.py space run server, press enter, and you should see, you can see here we've got a much shorter screen. There's no message here to say on applied migrations because we've applied the migrations for the pre-installed apps. So now that we've applied the migrations inside my PSQL shell, if I run this command / I've already connected to my database, which is Portfolio DB. So I do /DT and press enter. And you can see here it's now populated. So these are all the tables that have just been created using the migrate command. Okay, so it tells you the name of the table, list of the relations, the type is a table, who owns the table is the user Postgres, which is an administrative super user, and the name of the schema is a public schema. So that is it. In this video, I walked you through how to run migrations on the pre-installed applications that Django installed for you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to create a very basic view. A view is basically like a web page inside your Django application. So you can have different type of views. You can have a view for a contact page. You can have a view for a blog, a view for an about page, and so on. So when you think of a view, just think of it as a web page inside a Django application. Views are created inside the views.py file, which is located inside your Django app. So my Django app is called courses. So if I expand that, there is a file here called views.py. So this is where you create your view. A view basically is like a web page. So you need to make a request in order to get that page. So what we're going to do, we're going to import from Django.http. HTTP is a protocol that is used to communicate over the internet. So we're going to, from that HTTP module, we're going to import a class called HTTP response. So we're going to use that to respond to a request that we are going to make to our Django application. So I'm just going to come here and just tab down, and I'm going to do an import statement. So I'm going to say from Django.http space import space HTTP response. So this is what will return the response from the request. Next thing I want to do is define a view. A view is basically a function. So to define the view, type in def space. I'm going to call it index, and I'm going to pass in the request. Okay, requests can be maybe when you make a request to a website, www. something like that. But we're just going to do this internal for our Django application. So we add the colon, press enter, and then we'll have to define a response. So once a request is made, we want to be able to return something back for that response. So we're going to use a return, and inside the return, we're just going to use the HTTP response. And this, inside this method, we're just going to pass in a simple text that will be displayed when the request is made. So I'm just going to say hello world. That's it. That's going to be the text that I want displayed when a request is made to this view. So this is just a very basic view just to show you how things are wired up. So now that we've created the view, what next thing we need to do, we need to be able to call the view. So how do we activate the view? We need to map it to a URL. A URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. For example, www.xyz.com is an example of a URL. So we need to be able, which is a request. So when the request comes in, we need to map to a URL. So the project, Django project, has a URL which is known as the root URL. So if I look inside my Django project, which is called portfolio, you can see I've got the URL. So this is where the URL for the project is defined. You can see here we've got some here already defined, and it's usually defined inside this URL pattern, which is a variable that is a list, and it stores a list of path function. So what I'm going to do is create the same type of file but inside my apps directory, and then reference it from this root urls.py. So let me create one inside my directory first. So inside my apps directory, I'm just going to right click and click on new file, and I'm going to call it urls.py and press enter, and that will create a new file. So I'm going to add some import statements. So I'm going to say from Django.urls, I want to import the path function, and then from dot, I'm going to import the views. So what this dot is basically saying is that I'm going to import the views from, you can see here, if I expand this, I've got this file I've just created and I've got the views here. So this dot basically saying import this file called views from the same level. That's what the dot means. So now that I have done my import, next thing I want to do is create a variable called URL patterns. Okay, and this is usually set to equals to a Python list, and you represent a list with square brackets. So I'm going to tap to separate the list, and inside the list you have to provide a list of the path function. The path function is where you specify the views that you're going to use to render when a request is made. So you type in path, which is path, that's the path function, and then it does take in some parameters. So I'm going to, the first one is going to be the route that is requested for. For example, if you go to www.com/whatever, those are known as the route. So I'm going to do a comma, and the second argument is going to be the name of the function that will respond to that request. So it's going to be views.index, because I created a view called index. And you can also have another parameter here called name and set that to equals to index. The path function on line number 7 takes in 4 arguments, can take in 4 arguments. 2 of the arguments are required. The first one is the route, which is the first argument to supply, and the second argument is the views. So those 2 are required arguments. They also have optional arguments, and you can have keyword arguments, and you can also have a name. You can see here I've got the name. Note that the first argument here, which is the route, is a string. It has to be a string that contains the URL pattern. Okay, so when Django is processing the request, Django will start at the first pattern in the URL pattern variable and make its way down the list. So you can have several path functions. So Django starts at the very top and then makes its way down the list, comparing the requested URL against each of the pattern until it finds one that matches. When Django finds a matching pattern, what it does, it calls the views. Okay, so the specified view function, once it calls the view, it will execute the function for that view. It calls the view function with an HTTP request object as the first argument, and any captured values from the route as keyword arguments. The name argument I have specified here, this name argument, basically it allows you to refer to the URL unambiguously from elsewhere in your Django project, especially from within templates. If you're using templates, it allows you to make global changes to the URL pattern of your project while only just interacting with a single file. So the next thing we want to do here is we want to point this file here to the root URLs. So we've got another URLs file which is the root one located inside our Django project. So we want to point the one we just created to this one here. This is the root URLs, and you can see here it's already got its own URL pattern. So what we have to do in the root URL, we have to amend the import statement on line number 7 to include the include function. So here you say after the import, you do a space, type in include, and do a comma. Make sure you add the comma to reference the URLs file in our Django app. We need to use the include function to reference it. So the way we do that, we type in path, and inside the parentheses we type in the name of our Django app. So mine is called courses, and we do a slash. Make sure you enclose it in quotes. So that's the opening quote, and this is the closing quote. Okay, and that will be the first argument. You do a comma, and then you add the include function. The include function is what is used to reference the other urls.py file. So inside the quotes, we type in the name of our app, which in my case is called courses.urls. So what it's saying, I'm accessing the urls file from our app called courses. And then make sure you have a comma at the end. So by doing it this way, we'll be able to reference the other URLs file from this root URLs file. The idea behind using this include function is to make it easy to plug and play URLs. So what should happen if we start our Django development server and we go to the URL that's supplied? If we do a slash courses, it will then display the views file. Okay, it will display this message that says hello world. All right, so I've already started my Django server. Let's take a look. So this is my Django server here. You can see here is showing page not found. That's because I'm not using the correct route. So what I need to do here, change the URL and do a slash, type in courses, press enter, and you can see here it's now displaying the correct view based on this request. So that's basically how you create a basic view. So we're able to create a basic view and wire the view to the URLs file. Thank you for watching. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to create a model. What is a model? A model is a single source of definition about the data that you are storing in your database. Each model contains fields and behaviors about the data that you are storing. Each model is a Python class that subclasses to django.db.models.model. Each attribute of a model represents a database field. Django uses the object relational mapper to map the definitions in your models.py file to the structure in the database. The models defines the structure of the data you are storing in the database. Models are very useful because we use them to interact with the database. So let's go ahead and create a model inside our models.py file, which is located in our Django apps. So I've got my main project open and I'm going to expand my Django app. My Django app is called courses. So if I expand that, there should be a models.py file. So this is where you define your models. Line 1 here, it has already imported models from Django.db. Before creating models, it's always a good idea to take a few minutes to think about the type of fields that you want in your models. The model I'm going to create here, I want two fields. One is going to be an image field that will represent an image of the courses I am creating. And the second field I want is a summary of the text, just a brief text summary to say what the course is about. So I'm going to tab down and start the creation of the class. So to start, you type in the word class, because a model is a class, space, and then give the model a name. I'm going to call it, make sure the first letter is capital. So it's going to be called course. And then in parentheses, I'm going to use the models, which is in lowercase, dot. So what I'm saying here, from the models, I'm going to import the class called model. All right, that's what that is saying. I'll add my colon and press enter. And then I want to define the fields that I want the models to have. So these are going to represent fields in the database table. So the first is going to be image. So I'm going to say image. So this will be the class variable. And I'm going to set this to equals to the models dot, and then I'll say the type of data that is expected in that field is going to be an image field. That's the data type. Next thing I want to do, I want to specify where to put the images. So when the images are uploaded, I want to specify a directory where they go. So to do that, I'm going to say upload underscore to. So I'm just saying anytime I upload the image, I want them to be saved in a particular directory. So in quotes, I'm going to specify images slash. So what this will do, it will create a directory called images, and then any images that's uploaded for any course will be stored in that directory. The next class variable I want to define is going to be called summary. And I'm going to set this again to the models dot, and the type of data I want to store is going to be text. So I'm going to say char field, which basically allows you to store text data types. All right, so char field. And when you do specify this char field, you need to also specify the length of the maximum length of text you can type in that field. So you do that by saying max underscore length, and then you set a value. I'm going to set mine to equals to say 200. So what that is saying is that I set a maximum length, so you can't type in text that exceeds 200 in character length. So now that I've defined the class model, I want to also define a method. So I'm just going to tab down to define a method, just def. A method is basically a function. It's just that when you're defining a function in a class, is referred to as a method. So you define underscore underscore str underscore underscore, and then in parentheses I'll pass in the self parameter. All right, and I want it to return self dot summary. Summary I'm referring to here is this summary variable. So let me explain what this underscore underscore str underscore underscore, what that means. That basically is a built-in function in Python that is used for string representation of an object, and inside the function I've passed in a parameter called self. Self parameter is always the first parameter of a class method. It refers to the current instance of the class. It allows you to access the attributes and the methods of the class. And on line number 11 here in the return keyword, what this self means basically dot summary means any text that you type in as a summary is what will get returned. So once you've done that, you can just save the file. That is the model created. One more thing I want to do before I wrap up this video. On line 6 here, I've defined an image field, and in Python, in order to work with images, you have to make sure you have certain packages in your project. Now, there is a special package that is called Pillow that can be used to interact with images. So if you want to work with images, you need to install the package. So I'm going to install that now. I previously had my development server running, but since I created my model, you notice that the server has stopped. And that's because here it's telling me that I created a model which I set to an image field, and it's saying Pillow is not installed. So it's complaining about it. So I'm just going to stop the server properly and install Pillow. So to install Pillow, you just type in pip space install Pillow and press enter, and that should install the Pillow package. So the package has been installed. I'm just going to clear my screen and start my development server again, just to make sure everything still works. So it's Python manage.py space run server and press enter. So as you can see, the server is back up and running since we have now installed the Pillow package. So that's it for this video. In this video, I walked you through how to create a new Django model. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. I'll be showing you how to activate a model. There are 2 steps to activating a model. The first step is by creating a migration file, and the command you need to create the migration file is python space manage.py space make migrations space the name of your Django app. My Django app is called Courses. Migrations allow Django to store changes to your models, and this is then reflected in the database schema. So anytime you create a new model, you have to first create a migration file. What that migration file does, basically, it creates an initial file, which is kind of like a template file that will have all the database table fields that you want created in the database. So it doesn't actually create the fields in the database, it just sets the template ready. And then there is a second command that you have to execute that will then create the fields in the database. So the migrate command is the command that actually implements the creation of the fields inside your database. The make migrations command just prepares the files with the information that you need to create the fields in the database. So before I actually execute those commands, I just want to show you which folder the migrations are created in. So inside your apps, this is the models file. I'm just going to close that. Inside your Django app, if I expand this, you should see a folder called migrations. At the moment, the folder should be empty. This is the folder that all your migrations you create, this is where they're going to be kept. Okay, so it is from there that Django checks to see if there's any migrations that have not been applied, that is migrated, and then you run the migrate command to migrate them to the database. So anytime you make changes to your models, the changes will reflect and be stored inside this migrations folder. To create a migration file, you type in python space manage manage.py space, then you type in the command make migrations, make sure there is an S and then a space and then the name of your Django app. My Django app is called courses, and I press enter and that will create, you can see here it's created the migration file, which is basically a template, and you can see here it says 0001 underscore initial. So if we open up our project and look inside this migrations folder, we should now see a file called, there you go. Now what this is basically a template of what will be created inside the database. So it gives the database an ID, and then you have the image. This image and this summary are the fields I specified in the model. Django automatically adds an ID field for you. Before I run the command migrate that will create the database table and the fields, I just want to show you what's in the database at the moment. So the name of my database, I am connected to my PostgreSQL shell, which interacts with my database. So the name of my database I'm connected to is called PortfolioDB and is running as user Postgres. Now these are all the tables that are inside the database. So at the moment there is nothing here for the model I have created, but the minute I run the migrate command, if we come back here, we should be able to see it listed inside our database as one of its tables. So let's run the migrate command to create the table in the database. So we type in Python space manage.py space and then the command migrate and press enter, and that will migrate. You can see here it says apply all migrations, and this here is referring to previous migrations that it has applied. It's telling you this is what it has already applied. So there are tables for all this. So the one it has just applied is this one from courses 0001. So this was the migrations that we created above. So it's referring to this, telling us it has applied this migration there. All right. So now if we look in our table, our database, we should see a table that reflects that. So if we take a look now, you can see inside my database called PortfolioDB, I now have a table called course. All right, so that is the table that was created from the activation of the model. Before I wrap up this video, I just want to start my development server to make sure nothing has been broken. So I'll say Python manage.py space run server and press enter. And if my server is up and running, that means everything's okay. You can see here server is up and running and there is no migrations outstanding to be applied. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. When you create a new Django project, by default, it also creates an administrative web page for you for that project that you can use to manage and administer the entire project. Before you can log into that administrative site, you need to create a super user account that can be used to manage your project. The command you need is called Python space manage.py space create super user. Once you type that command into your command line interface, it will provide you with some prompts that you need to follow. So let me show you what the admin page looks like. So make sure you have your Django web server running, and then you need to change the path. So just do, after the 8000, you type in admin, which is the path that will give you this admin screen. So this is where you would use the super user account you create. If we take a look at our settings.py file inside our Django project, you notice here we've got the django.contrib.admin. So this is the Django app installed that enables you to manage your project. And then if we look in the urls.py file, which is this file here, we should see a URL path. You can see here Django has created a path here automatically, that means if you go to your project/admin, it will take you to the admin site. To create an administrative super user, you type in the command python space manage.py space, and then you type in the word create super user. It's got to be one word, create super user. Press enter. You will get a few prompts. So the first prompt you get, it takes the name of your computer and asks you if you want to use that name. If you decide to use your computer name, you can just press enter and that accepts it. And then you indicate an email address. You don't have to, but I'll just indicate one just for illustration purposes. I just say Blue Lime Learning at hotmail.com. So once you've entered your email, you press enter, you'll get a prompt for a password. So just type in a password and then press enter. It will ask you to confirm the password. Press enter again, and it then tells you super user created successfully. Now we can go back to our project and then log into the admin site. To view your admin page, make sure you've got your Django development server running. Then you type in the correct path. So after the port 8000, you do a slash and then admin and press enter, and that gives you this admin page. So the username will be the username that you set up or you agreed to use during the creation of the super user. Just type that in and then enter your password. So I'm just going to enter my password. Once you've done that, click on login. From the admin page, you can perform a variety of administrative tasks. For example, here where you've got authentication and authorization, you can add groups, you can change, and you can also add users and also modify users. So that's it for this video. We successfully created a super user account. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. I'll be showing you how to register your model with the admin site so that you can interact with the model from your admin web page. So this is my admin web page at the moment. So as you can see, there is no models here. So what I'm going to do is register the model so that I can interact with it from this admin page. To register our model, we need to open up our Django app. My Django app is called courses. So I'm just going to expand that. Inside that, there is a file called admin.py. So click on that. This is where we are going to register our model. But before we register the model, we have to bring the model into this file. So we import it. We say from .models, and then we type in the name of the model. So we do an import statement, and my model is called course. It's the name of my model. This period here basically is saying that we are importing this model called course from the same level here, because here I've got a file called models.py. Inside that, I've got my model called course. So all I'm saying here is I'm importing the model from the same level. To register the model, after importing it, I just need to come here and type in the word admin.site.register, and inside the parentheses you pass in the name of your model. My model is called course, and that's basically it. That is how you register your model. Now if I go back to my admin site, if I refresh the page, I should see, you can see here my model has now appeared, so I can now interact with it from my admin page. One more thing to note is that this admin page here is not visible to visitors of your website. The visitors do not see this page. This is only for the administrators of the website project. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to create module objects inside the admin site of your Django project. Make sure your Django server is up and running, and also make sure that you are logged into your admin site. So once you're in your admin site, we can create new module objects by clicking on the name of your object. So whatever name you've called your object, just click on it and that will give you this interface. You should have whatever, if your module is about a job, it should say add new job or whatever you've called your module. So I'm going to add a course. So I click on that and that gives me this interface. And these are the fields that I created when I designed my models. So I designed my models to have two fields, an image field and a summary field. So this is my models.py file, and you can see I've got my model called course, and these are the two fields. We've got the image and we've got the summary. So to begin the process of creating the model object, I'm going to click on this option to choose an image file I want to use. So I have browsed to my images folder on my desktop. So I'm going to select the image I want. I'm going to click on this as my image and click open, and that you can see is uploaded the image. Next, on this field, I just need to enter a text. So I'm just going to say Django for beginners. I type in beginners. And once I've done that, I just click on this save button and that should create the object. You see, it tells you here the course Django for beginners was added successfully. So I've just created a new module object. So if I click on the object, click on that, I can modify it. If I want to replace the image, I can do that. If I want to change the text that's here, I can change that and then save whatever changes I make. If I also want to delete, I can also delete that. I'm just going to click save because I'm not making any changes. Also, if I click on the object again, let me click on that. Any changes you make, you can track it in the history. So if you click on history, it can tell you here what has happened on that object. You can say these are the usernames. So my username is BLS and it tells you the action I took. I added something. And again, at this time, no field were changed. I just tried to open up the model to make some changes, but I didn't make any changes. So you can tell, it tells you here, no action was taken. So I'm just going to click on the home here to return that. So that's basically it. So I can add several more. If I want to add more module objects, I just come here and just repeat the process I have just done. Okay. To log out of this administration site, there is an option here for logout. So whenever you finish, make sure you click on the logout. When the model class was created, in this image field here, I specified where to upload the images to. So I said to upload it to a folder called images. So the image I just uploaded, if we look here, it would have created a folder called images. You can see here, I've got the folder called images. If I expand that, you should see this is the image that I just uploaded. Okay, so that is it for this video. In this video, I showed you how to create a module object from the admin site of your project. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello there, welcome to this video. Now that we have some objects from the module saved inside our database, the next step for us is to try and pull the objects from the database and get them to show up on the website so the end user can see it. We are able to see it on the admin side, but the end user cannot see the admin side and should never be able to see the admin part of your Django project. Okay, so in order for them to see what we have in the database, that is what we want them to see, we have to look for a way to display that information or pull that information out of the database for them to see. So let's open up our views.py file, and inside our index function here, I'm just going to create a variable that will be used to pull the objects from the database. So to do that, I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to call it courses, just because that's what I'm doing. If you're doing jobs, you can put in jobs or whatever your portfolio is about. And I'm going to set that to equals to uppercase courses with the uppercase C. And this basically represents the model or the class in the database. I'll say dot objects. So this line of code is all I need to pull the objects from the database. And the next thing we want to do in this render here, render function or method, we actually need to reference the objects that are being pulled from the database, and we represent them in terms of a dictionary. So I'm just going to do a comma, and a dictionary you enclose in curly braces, and inside that dictionary I'm going to make the key. I'm just going to call it courses. Now this could be any string. I'm just calling it courses because that's the type of data, that's what I'm pulling out of the database. Yours could be jobs, it could be projects or whatever. So anything you want to call the string is fine, but it makes sense to call the string what you're trying to get out of the database. And then the next value, the value for that key is going to be the actual course I am pulling from the database. So I'm just going to say courses. So courses are the objects I'm pulling from the database, and this courses here is just a string to say what it is I'm getting from the database. So once you've done that, just save that. The next thing I need to do is go into my template file and set up a for loop that will loop through the objects and then get them to display on the page. So I'm going to my index.html file, and this is where I'm going to create the loop. What I'm going to do is just modify the title here and just say courses rather than hello world. I just delete that bit, and then I can start creating the loop. So I'm going to use a special syntax. So you do that and you add the %. So I'm going to say for course in courses. If your portfolio is about jobs, you can say for job in jobs. So I'm going to do for course in courses dot all, and what that would do, it will loop through the database of the courses and then render what's in there into the template. Next thing I want to do is be able to grab the field that I want. So I'm going to enclose that in a variable. So you do that with double curly braces, and I'm going to say course dot summary. My table has 2 fields, but I only want to display one of the fields. I don't want to display the image field at the moment, so only the summary. What I'm going to do also, I'm going to add a break tag so that there is a break after each one is displayed, so they don't get displayed on the same line. And finally, I will end my curly brace with the curly brace, and then we have the percent, and you do end 4, and you add the percent, and that's how you close the braces. So once you've got that sorted, just press save. One more thing we have to do is import the model inside our views.py file. So I'm just going to come down here and just do from .models. I'm going to import the class called course. So whatever you've named your model, just import it and just give it a relevant name. So that is important, because if you don't import the model into the views file, it will not be able to access the model and pull out the objects from the database. If I now open up my URL of the project, it should now pull the object I have in the database. I created one object, so I expect to see that object displayed in the front end of the application. So as you can see here, this is the object from the database being displayed in the front end of the application. That is the title inside my HTML file. So now that I have the for loop in place inside my template, any further model objects I create in the database backend, I can get that to display in the front end of the application so the end users can see it. So that is it for this video. In this video, I showed you how to pull database objects from the database and display them in the application front end. Thank you and bye for now. Hello there. Welcome to this video. I'll be showing you how to add Bootstrap to your HTML template to improve the look and appearance of your web page. Bootstrap is an open source toolkit that is used for developing with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it's basically a type of framework that can make your website look better. You can get Bootstrap from the link displayed on the screen, which is https://getbootstrap.com. I want to be able to display the images of my courses in an album kind of way. So Bootstrap has many example templates that you can use. So click on examples, and the one I'm going to use is the album one. You can see here, this is the album. So if you have different images, you can display them in kind of an album format like this. So I'm going to click on this album link, and that will display this page. So I want to use the HTML that was used for this album page. So to do that, I'm just going to right click anywhere and click on the view page source. That will show you the HTML code that was used to create this page. So I'm going to click on that, and that will give you, this is the HTML page. The next thing I'm going to do is copy the entire HTML file here. So I'm just going to select all of it and then copy it and paste inside my HTML file. So I'll right click and go copy, and then I'll open up my HTML. I'm going to paste it just underneath the HTML code I have here. So I'll right click and click paste, and I'll just do Control and save. So let's take a look at this on the web page. So I'm just going to refresh my page. My server is running, so I'll refresh. You can see this is what I've just copied across, all this content. You can see this is not properly structured. That's because I've not got Bootstrap incorporated yet. So that's the next thing to do, to incorporate Bootstrap. There are two ways you can incorporate Bootstrap into your project. You can either install it, or you can reference it from the Bootstrap website. So for now, I'm going to reference it from the website. So this is the main website. So if you scroll down, there's an option for get started. Click on that, and it provides different links that you can use to incorporate Bootstrap into your project. So if we look in this quick start area, the first component we're going to copy is the CSS. So just click on this copy here, and that will copy this entire CSS link, and then open up your HTML file. Inside your HTML file, you should see some CSS links. So what I'm going to do, just where it's got Bootstrap core CSS, I'm just going to paste the one I've just copied across, paste it there, and then I remove the one that was there before. This is the one I've just pasted, so I'm going to remove the one that was there. I'm just going to scroll through and remove that, and this is the one I've just added. I'm also going to remove this one on line number 20. Just scroll through and remove that. Okay, so now this is the CSS I've just copied across. This is a link that will link me to the Bootstrap. And if I go back to the Bootstrap page, I also want to copy some JavaScript components. So if you scroll down, you can see these are the JavaScript area. I've got 3 files here. So I'm just going to select and then copy, click on copy. I go back into my HTML file. If I scroll down to my index.html file, there is some area there that contains some JavaScript. I'm going to replace all that script element from that section. So right at the bottom, you should see a script tag. Get rid of this script tag here. And we're going to paste in the one that I've just copied across. Right click and click paste, and that will paste the script tag. These are the ones I've just copied across to replace what's there. So once you've done, just click to save the file, and let's refresh our page. So I'm just going to click on the refresh, and you can see now it's now displaying the content properly. Okay, so basically what's going to happen here, the image from my courses, or if your portfolio is about jobs or whatever, the images will be displayed here, and then the text that goes with it will go in this area here. Okay, so obviously we're still going to make some tweaks to customize this to make it look more like our project. I'm going to end this video here, and in part 2 we will continue tweaking this Bootstrap template that I've incorporated so that it looks more like our project. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to the part 2 of this video. In this part of the video, I'm going to start customizing the HTML that I copied over from Bootstrap. So this is what the project looks like after copying the HTML template over from Bootstrap. So I'm going to start customizing it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I notice here, you can see here, this doc type is showing. It shouldn't show at all. It looks like when I copied it over, I forgot the tag at the opening. So I just need to fix that first. So inside my HTML here, that's the doc type on line number 10. I just need to add the opening tag, and that should fix that problem. I'll do Control S to save the code. Now if I refresh, this doc type should disappear. You can see it's gone now. Next thing I want to do is remove this bar here, this navigation bar. I want to get rid of it. It looks like it's some kind of header. So I need to go inside my HTML again. So in the HTML, I need to look for something relating to header. I'm going to scroll down and see if there is. Usually it should be in the body. So that's the body tag. This is the header. So get rid of it. Everything that's the opening header. Make sure you've got all the tags right up till the closing header. So make sure you get from the closing header, which is this one here on line number 76, all the way to the opening header, which is on line number 46. So just get rid of that block of code. So once you've got rid of that header, just do Ctrl S to save your code, and let's go back and take a look. Let's refresh, and this header should disappear. You can see it's now gone. The next thing I want to do is change the title. You can see here it says album example bootstrap. We want to change that to reflect our own project title. To change the title of the page, if you look under the head section where you've got the meta tag, you should see a section here on line number 18. It says title. So this is the title we copied over. So just get rid of that and add your own title. So I'm just going to say Blue Lime Courses. Okay, and do Ctrl S to save. Now if I refresh, this title here that says album example should now reflect my own title. You can see here saying my own title, Blue Lime Courses. Right, the next thing I want to change, this area here, this gray area here is called a Jumbotron. So I want to modify this area. First thing I want to do is change the heading for this Jumbotron. So if you scroll down your HTML file, just after the body tag, you've got the main row here, and then you've got the section class Jumbotron. So here on line 51, we've got the Jumbotron heading. So I'm just going to change that to my own heading. So just put a heading that reflects your own project. So I'm just going to say Blue Lime Learning Solutions. That would be my title. Do Ctrl S to save. If I refresh, this album example title should change to my own title. You can see it's changed to my own title. Next thing I want to do, this text in this area here, I just want to modify it to my own text. So this is my Jumbotron area. So I'm just going to change the Jumbotron text. I'll get rid of what's there at the moment and just add my own text. I just say, welcome to Blue Lime Learning. And I can just say, we provide 24/7 online learning on Udemy. And I'll do Ctrl S to save that. Now if I refresh my page, this area here should change to reflect my own text. So I'll refresh. You can see here it's changed to my own text. It says, welcome to Blue Lime Learning. We provide 24/7 learning on Udemy. Next thing I want to do is change the text for this buttons, this call to action buttons. And the call to action buttons are just these two buttons here inside the Jumbotron area. So the first one, I'm just going to change the text to say, I want to make this an email button. So I just say email. And the second call to action button, I'm going to change the text to say courses is going to be my text. And I'm going to change the button color. At the moment, I want to change it from dark to say bluish. So I'll change it to button-info. All right, and that will give it a different color. I'll do Ctrl S to save. Just going to refresh, and this text and the button color should change for this one. You can see here it has changed. What else I can tweak? Right at the bottom here, this area here is called the footer area. I'm going to get rid of that. So if I open up my index.html, the footer should be right at the bottom. You can see here that is the closing tag for the footer. So, and that's the opening. So I'm just going to grab this area here. Okay. So that's the opening footer, closing footer, and I'll just get rid of that and do Ctrl S to save. Now, if I refresh, this area here should be gone. You can see that area is now gone. Now the last thing I want to do for this video here, all these thumbnails, there's too many of them. I only want one, and then as I upload the images for my courses, it will automatically add them. So I'm going to get rid of all these thumbnails and leave just one. So after the Jumbotron section, this section here, we now start having the area for the thumbnails. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to leave this div here that says div class album, leave that. I'm going to leave this div here that says div class row, and I'm going to come back to that. I'm just going to tab so that I know where I need to come back to. If I scroll right down to the bottom, right to the end, because these divs are all, you can see where it says the closing main. I'm just going to keep the last div. So from here, I'm going to keep all this right up till here. So I'm just going to press so that you know where I'm keeping, and I'm going to get rid of everything from here right up till where I gave the gap, right up till here. Okay, and I'll get rid of that, press delete. So I should only have, after the Jumbotron, after this section here, I should have just that, just this area here. So this is what should be left after stripping all the others. Okay, and we have the div row, and then we have just this block here all the way. All right, and that's it. So do Ctrl and S to save, and if we refresh, we should have only one of the thumbnails left. Refresh. As you can see, we've only got the one left, and then we can build from here. Once we upload each image for our project, it will automatically add its own thumbnail, and this area here will be where we'll add the text summary for the project. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. Websites generally sometimes need to serve additional files such as images, JavaScript, and CSS, and also some media files. These are referred to as static files. They are standalone files, so they are not part of any database integration within your project. So they generally include images and then CSS files or JavaScript files, in some cases media files. To use static files, you must make sure you have the correct configuration. So if you take a look at your settings file, which is the settings.py file, make sure that you have on line 40 here, make sure you have this django.contrib.static files included in your installed apps. Also inside the settings.py file at the bottom, you should see a definition for the static URL. So if I scroll down, there you go, line 127. We've got this variable here called static_URL, and this is the value for it. So while we are in the settings file, there's another setting we can add here. We can add the location where the actual static files will be stored and collected from once this URL here is visited. So I'm just going to tab down, and to begin, I am going to create a variable. I'm going to call the variable static_root, and I'm going to set it to equals to, I don't want to give it a specific location on my local computer, just in case the project is moved or it has to be deployed live. So you want to set a path that will be easy to integrate into the project. So I'll say os.path.join, and in parentheses, this should be join. And then in the parentheses, I would say base underscore dir, comma, and then static. So line 28 here is the absolute path to the directory in which the static files should be stored and also collected from. So notice here on line 128, I've used this join here, and basically what I'm doing here is that I'm joining two things together. The first is the base underscore dir, which is the base directory. That's basically the starting point of the project or of your project. And then we have to provide a name of the folder where we want this to be stored. So I've called it static. I've not created that yet, so I'm going to create this folder inside my Django app. So let me create this static folder that I've referred to here on line 128. So inside my Django app is called courses. I'm going to right click and select new folder, and inside that I'm just going to type in static and press enter. So any static files I have will be stored inside that folder called static. So this is my project directory, and that's the static folder I've just created. So I'm just going to open it. I've got an image folder and I want to drag an image into it, this logo here. I want that logo to be my static file, one of my static components. I'm going to paste that inside there. So if I expand my Django app, you should see my static, and there should be an image file here of my logo. Okay. So if your portfolio is about a job, you could put an image of yourself there, or if you've got an image of a project you want to put as a static file, you can also do that. To access the static file settings, I'll need to import them into my urls.py file of my Django project. So this is my Django project here. I'm going to expand that and click on this urls.py. So I'll need to do, where I've got the imports here, I need to import the settings.py. So to do the import, you type in from django.conf space import space settings. Okay, that's the first one. And then we'll do from django.conf the URL s.static space import static, which is the static folder I created. All right, and then just save that. The next thing I need to do is add the reference inside this URL patterns. So I'm just going to come here and tab. So here I need to provide the static URL and the static root for the static files. So to do that, you add a plus, and then you type in static, which is the static that I've imported. And then inside, I will pass in settings dot static in capital underscore URL. You do a comma, then type in documents underscore root, and you give it a value of settings dot static underscore root. So this provides both the static URL and the static root for any static files that you have. So that's it for this part of the video. We'll continue in part 2. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to the part 2 of adding static files. What we need to do in this part is we need to collect the static files, and Django has a special management command that can be used to collect static files. You can have static files in a bunch of different applications, and what this command would do, it will bring all the static files. It will search the entire Django project, and anywhere it finds a folder with the word static, it will bring them all together in a central location. When you create a new Django project, the Django admin site also has some static files. So this command I'm going to type will collect all the static files and put them in a central location. That way it makes it easier to update one location for all the static files. So the command is python space manage.py space collect, one word, static, and then press enter. What that would do, it will search the entire Django project and pull any static files it finds, any folder it finds with static, and put them in a central location. So you can see the command has returned 120 static files. So it says it found 120 static files and it has copied them to this location, which is my main project directory, and is put them in a folder called static. So it's created a folder called static and put all the static files and folders it found throughout the project. Okay, so that's why, if in case you're wondering why there's 120, these will include static files from the admin site that Django would have provided. So the command that I just executed created this folder called static, and if we expand that, this folder called admin would have been all the static files from the admin site. If I expand that, you've got the CSS, the fonts, IMG, everything here belongs to the admin site of your project. And this logo here is my own logo that I added into my static folder, which is located inside my Django apps and inside the folder called static. Okay, so it's pulled it from there and dropped it into this main thing. So this static folder here is the central static folder. So any static files that I find or that this project uses will be stored in this central location. Makes it much easier to just update one directory for your static files. So this here is the root directory. That's where the main static folder has been created. So anytime you add a new static file or you update any static file, you just run the same command, python space manage.py collect static, and it will collect all the static files from that location. So now that the static files has been collected by Django, we need to incorporate that into the template. In my own case, the static file I'm interested in is my image. So if I click on that, this is the image I want to incorporate into my template. So what I'm going to do is expand my Django app and open up my templates. Inside my Django templates, I'm going to open up this folder called courses, and inside there is my index.html file. So I need to let this template file know that I want to use static files, and to do that you have to use the template tag to tell it that you want it to load some static files. So you do that right at the top. So I come here, you can see where I've got the doc type just underneath here. I'm just going to tab down and add the template tag, which is the open curly brace, and then you add the %, and then you type in load static, and then you add the %. So just this one line of code here, this tag here will load the static files into your project or template. So that's just one command that will load the static file you request for. And then I need to specify what static file to bring into the template. And I want to bring my image into the template. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an image tag somewhere. So you can see in my Jumbotron here, just after this paragraph tag, after the two buttons, I'm going to tab, come down, and I'm going to add an image tag. So you do a left angle bracket img, and inside that tag, I'm going to do a space and do an src. Src basically is the source, so I need to tell them where I want the image to be pulled from. So you do the quotes, and in curly braces, I'm going to use the template tag again to indicate that I want to bring in some static content into this location. So what I do, you do the %, and I'm going to specify where it is coming from. It's coming from a folder called static. Okay. And the name of the file is called logo.jpg. It's a JPEG file. And then I'll close the template tag with the % sign. What I want to do also, I want to add an attribute that will have the image at a certain fixed size. So I'm going to do a space inside the image tag and specify the height I want this image to be. So I'm going to set it to 300, and then I'll close that tag and then close the img tag. Okay. So that should be it. So if you just save the file and then restart the development server, the image should now show on the page. So you can see here, that's the server running, and you can see the image that I have just uploaded. So I've been able to bring in a static file into my Django app. So at the moment, the images from the database are not coming through yet. I've not configured that. We'll do that in subsequent videos. But for now, we have successfully brought in a static file into our Django app. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. I'll be showing you how you can add links to buttons on a web page. When I copied the HTML from a Bootstrap template example, it also gave me access to two buttons. At the moment, the buttons are not going anywhere. It's just an empty link. If I click on it, it doesn't take me anywhere. I've called my buttons, the first one I've called Email Us, and the second one I've called Courses on Udemy. What I want to do for my page, I want to set up a link so that when someone clicks on this, it will automatically open up my email address on their email client. And when someone clicks on this link, it should take them to all our courses on Udemy. You can have as many buttons as you want. You can have one going to Twitter, one going to Facebook, to Instagram, or whatever. So any type of button you want, you can just add them and just set the link. So inside my HTML here, this is where the buttons are located inside my Jumbotron. And you can see here, this hash here indicates that the link is empty, so it goes nowhere, just submitting to itself. So I want to change that. My first one here, I want to add a mail to. Mail to basically is a uniform resource identifier. It's a scheme for email addresses. So it's basically used to produce hyperlinks on websites that allows users to send an email to a specific address. So now I'm going to specify the address I want. So when they click on the link, it will open up my email address on their email client. So I'm just typing in my email address. And for this second button here, I'm going to get rid of the empty link. I want to add the address for my Udemy courses. so that when the link is clicked, it will display the courses that we have on Udemy. So that's it. I'll just save that. So now that I've added a link to my buttons, I should be able to click on it and it should direct me to where I pointed it to. So if I click on this email us, it should open up the various email clients. You can see here is giving me the option here. So you can just, whatever email client the person that clicked on the link uses, they can just click on it and it will automatically insert the email address I have specified on their email client. Also, if I click on my second link here, it should take me to Udemy and should show me the Udemy courses. Okay, so these are all the courses on Udemy. So that's it. That's how you add links to buttons. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. I'll be showing you how to create links for the objects you have on your web page. On my Django app at the moment, I've got images and got text. I want to be able to make the images clickable so that when you click on it, it takes you to another page, and that page will display the image and also display the text. So it's a kind of like a detail page of that individual image. So that's the goal. The first thing I need to do is try and create a new path function inside my URL patterns in my Django app. My Django app is called courses. So if I expand that, there is a file called urls.py. So you can see I've got some path there already. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another path. So I'm just going to press enter and going to copy this and just modify the parts that I want changing. So to begin, every path function must have a route. That means where you want to go to search for particular information. So here, the first parameter is a route. For that, I'm going to put int. I'll explain this in a minute. And I'll type in course underscore ID and close bracket. So what this is saying, if someone goes to my web page, so if someone comes here, this address, and does a /1 or whatever, that's what I mean. Okay, so if this image is being clicked on, it will give the ID of that image. So whatever ID it had in the database, so every object in the database will have a primary key. So whatever that primary key is, when you click on this, it will bring up that route. That's what I'm referring to. So that information, the numerical information that's captured, will be stored in this variable called course underscore ID. And once you've entered that URL, we need a view that will be called to render for this URL. And the view function, I'm going to create a view called details. I've not created it yet, but we'll create it shortly. So that's going to be the name of my view, and I'm going to give the value of this name parameter. I'm going to give it the same name as my view. Okay. So now that I've set up the URL path, I need to create the view that I specified inside that path. So I'm going to open up my views.py file, which is this file here, and just create a new view function. So I'm just going to tab down, make sure your indentation is correct. So I'll create a new view function, type in def to create the function. I'm going to call it detail because that's what I specified in my URL path. And inside the parentheses, the first argument is always the request that is made, and the second argument is going to be the course ID, because I specified a variable called course ID when I set up the URL pattern. So I need to pass this. So anytime this view is called, this variable called course ID, course underscore ID, will be forwarded to this particular view. All right, so add the colon and press enter. For now, I just want to return. I'm just going to do a test, return, render, and inside that render function, we're going to pass in the original request as the first argument. And then the second argument is going to be the view that I want to use for this function when the function is called. So for now, I just want to test it by using the view called index. Okay, and I've got a view called index, which I'm using for this index function. I'm just going to use that here just for testing purposes, to test if what I'm trying to do is going to work, and then I can implement the view properly. The next thing I want to do is do some basic testing. I want to make sure that if I go to my URL and do a /1 or enter any integer, I want to make sure that it does print that out. So I don't want it to print it on the page. I want it to print it out in the console. So to do that, I'm going to just tab down and do a print statement. So I do print, and in the parentheses, I'm going to pass in the course ID. Okay. And then here on line 15 in my render, make sure you have there are quotes surrounding this. That should be the opening quote, and the closing quote should be at the end of that. So make sure you are enclosed in quotes. So once you've done that, just click and save, and let's do some basic testing. So this is the page here. So if I change the route, if I do a /1 and just press enter, the reason it's still giving me this because I am using the index view at the moment just for testing purposes. So if I look in my console now, you can see here is printed out the number 1. If I do a /2 and go back in my console, you can see is printed out 2. So that means the URL path is at least working. I can now remove the print function here because I've tested and it works. So what I want to do now is implement this method properly, this detail method. So first thing I want to do is import right at the top. So after this render here, I'm going to do a comma, and I want to import a class called get underscore object underscore or underscore 404. Now what this class or method will do basically is that it will call the get function on a given model. So it will query the database. If a certain object does not exist in the model, it will return a 404 error. That's basically what that's doing. So inside my function, I'm going to implement that inside this view called detail. First thing I want to do is create a variable inside the function. So I'll create a variable called course underscore detail. So you can call yours any name you like. I'm going to set that to equals to this function that I just imported, which is get object underscore 404. And inside the parentheses for this method, you have to pass in the model that you're trying to get data from. And my model is called course. It has to be in uppercase. Okay. So that's the name of my model, which is course. And then it also takes in another parameter, which is a primary key, because every record in the database will have a primary key. So PK stands for primary key, and you give it a value, and the value of that primary key is going to be the individual course underscore ID. That's what this method here is going to query the database using the get method. And if it doesn't find the particular primary key for the object we want from the database, it will return a 404 error to say that that object does not exist. And in my render here, I'm just going to adjust this. I'm going to change the view. So I'm going to create a file, HTML file later called detail.html. So when this function is called, this view function is called, it will render this detail.html template. So inside that, I want to just do a comma and add a dictionary. So you do curly brace, and for the dictionary, the key is going to be a string. So because the information I want to retrieve is about a course, I'm going to specify the name of the course. So inside the dictionary, between the quotes, I'll say course. And then that would be the key for the dictionary. And then I'll add the colon. And the actual information I'm trying to get back from the database is the individual course detail. So I do course underscore detail. So this will represent the data I'm trying to retrieve from the database. That's what this dictionary is doing. So that's it. When you're done, just click to save the file. So now that we've created the view function, the URL has been set up. In the next video, I will create a HTML file called detail.html that will be rendered when the relevant route is called. Okay, so we'll do that in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to the part 2 of creating object links. In this part, I'm going to be focusing on the HTML templates. The first thing I need to do is create a new HTML file, and that's going to be created inside the templates directory. So if I click to expand my Django app, and there is a directory called templates, that's where Django looks for templates, and then expand. And inside there's another directory called courses, and inside that course I've already got a template called index.html. So I'm going to right click on this courses directory and click on new file, and you can see the path there, and I'm going to call it detail.html and press enter because I've already specified that name inside my view. So the next thing to do is, what I want to do is copy, because both templates are going to be similar. I just need to make a few minor tweaks. So I'm going to click on the index.html file and just copy everything from this index.html inside my new detail.html. So copy and come to this details.html and just paste. So we just need to make some adjustments to this one that I have just pasted across. So I'm just going to look through and see what I need to amend or take out. We're still going to leave this here because we want to load static files. I'm just going to scroll down into this Jumbotron area here. I'm going to change the where it's got Jumbotron heading. I'm going to change that title. So I'm going to get rid of that text and just type in course detail instead. Okay. Make sure that you've got the H1 tags there. That's the opening H1 and that's the closing H1. Also here where it's got lead text, I want to change that text. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And in place of this, I'm going to use the Django template syntax to embed a variable. So you do that with double curly brace. So do double, and basically what I want to do here is inside this template, this area here, I want to bring in the actual text for the course. Okay, so I've got a field in my database table called course.summary. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be rendered in this area here using this special variable syntax. Next thing I want to do is add an image tag. So just after this line 44, I'm just going to press enter and add an img tag. So you do left angle bracket img for an image tag, and then sroc, that's the attribute that you have to specify where the image is coming from, and you enclose that in quotes. So again, I'm going to use the variable syntax here for the Django template language, and I'm going to bring in the individual image that is requested for. So we're going to do course dot image, all right, dot URL. So it will grab the image based on the URL that was defined for that image. And I want to set a height attribute because I don't want the image to be too big. So I can set the height to equals to 300. Okay, and I'll close the image tag, and that will be my closing tag. All right, so that basically will bring in the image for the course. The next thing I want to do is be able to add a link that when you click on the object, which is the image, you should have a button that will take you back to the main home page. So what I'm going to do, I am going to get rid of this here. I don't need this too. I'll get rid of this. This is copied over from the index template. I'll get rid of that and add my own link. So to add an anchor tag, you do a left angle bracket and type in the letter A, space, and then the href attribute, and then you specify the image you're trying to bring in. So you do, I'm going to use the template string again. So I'll do the % and specify the URL. And this is where it's going to the image is going to be redirected to when you click on the image. I want it to be redirected to my home page, which is the index page. Okay, that's what I'm saying there. And then I'll add the % there to close that. Next, I want to add the button that will be clicked on to take them back to the home page. So to add a button, you do btn space btn dash primary. Dash primary will give me a blue button, and then do space my dash 2. So that's the bootstrap button class. And then I'll add the text that will be displayed on the button. So it's going to say back, and then I'll close the opening anchor tag. So what this link is basically, when you click on the image, there will be a back button. And when you click on that back button, it will take you back to the home page of the application. I don't need this image tag here on line 49. That's from my index file. I'm just going to delete that. So the final thing I need to do is create the link, what will make the actual object clickable from the home page. So I need to go to the index.html, which is this. That's my index.html file. And then I have to look for where the image is being rendered. So here, so this is the area where the image is being rendered. So just here, after this div here, I'm just going to tab down and add an anchor tag. So you do a left angle bracket to create an anchor tag. So the link is going to start from here. So I'll do href equals to and the percent sign, and I'm going to use the template syntax again. So I'll do percent, and after that we'll specify the URL, and the URL that I'm going to specify is from the detail. It's going to say detail. All right, so when that is clicked, and I'm going to also specify the course ID. So when a particular course is clicked, is referenced, it will reference the course ID for that. And then close the percent. And then I need to specify where I want the link to end. So I'm going to come here and just tap down, and this is where I want the link to end. So I'll do left angle bracket /A. So anything between the opening anchor tag and the closing anchor tag is going to be treated as a link. So it's going to be clickable. Just a few checks before we test what we have done. Inside the index.html file on line 64, where I added the img class, make sure that your quotes are all paired properly and your curly braces, all of them match. So you should, for example, for the source of the image, you should have the quotes on the outside of the variable template, and then you've got the quotes there. So make sure everything match up. Make sure your tags are closing. That's the opening tag, and that's the closing one. Okay. And if we look inside the details.html file, again, line 47, where I've inserted the link, make sure that your quotes, everything match up. That's the opening quote there, that's the closing, and for the button, that's the opening and that's the closing, and then you've got the angle bracket and the closing tag. So make sure all your tags and quotes, they pair up properly, because that can often cause errors. So once you've got all that checked, just save your file and let's go and do some testing. All right, so let's test some of the image objects to see if they're clickable. You can see here, you can tell an image is clickable when you put your mouse around it, it turns into a hand. This area is not clickable, it's just the image. So if I click on this now, when I click on the image, look out here, you can see the URL path will change. So if I click on that here, you can see it's giving me 5, which means the primary key for that object is 5 inside the database model. So, okay, I've noticed here I forgot to close a tag. That's why that is there. So I need to go into my details and change that. So I just need to go right. I've missed a tag there. So inside my Jumbotron here, you can see on line 43, I've got an extra angle tag there. I just need to click to delete that, and I'll just refresh, and that has disappeared. So we can see here we've got a back button. If you click on it, it takes you back to the main page, and if I click on another image here, the URL on there should change as well. You can see that tells me that the ID for this object in the database is 4. That is the primary key. All right, and it gives me these details here. If I want to go back, I just click back, and that takes me back to my home page. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.